Yes, I believe we are live today, and I'm excited about our stories, his glory today, because I got a special guest, a friend of mine. Believe it or not, I have a friend that coaches major Division I basketball, and Chris Holtmann, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and then I'm going to shut up and let him talk. But you may notice today something a little bit different. I've tried to make it to where I got a split screen, so you don't have to look at me the whole time, and you got a picture of Coach Holtmann. Some of you guys may remember that are local here from North Carolina that Coach Holtmann, Chris, coached at Gardner Webb 2 different times, once as an assistant coach, once as a head coach. We're going to talk about some of that. And then he moved on to Butler University, where he eventually became head coach, and now he is the head basketball coach at The Ohio State University. Chris Holtmann, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, Rusty. It's great to be with you. And thank you for emphasizing that D. I know that'll make all the Buckeyes up here and around the world happy.
You know what? They're very recognizable for that, for the Ohio State, and then they take their hands and do that big O, above their head, and
that's right.
It's got to be fun having a football team as good as they are, and being able to coach a basketball team as good as they are. The people in Ohio are very passionate about their sports, I'm assuming.
Yes, it's one of the things I've learned is you have a place that's reaches as far and wide as Ohio State. You have a lot of passionate fans, and certainly it begins with football here. And I'm the first to recognize that it's that's what this place is. You don't get to be a blue blood in a sport, and we're very much a blue blood in football without really decades and years and years and years of success and tradition. And that's what it's at. It's been a lot of fun to be around it and to see it operate, and obviously to be at a large university. It's been very different, as you know, from our experience together.
Yeah.
It's just very different going from private schools to public schools.
Yeah, and one that had about 3,000 students to one that has over 30,000 is probably quite a transition as well. I want to take you back, if I can, because these are some fond memories for me, and I believe they are for you too. Back when you were coaching at Gardner Webb, and I still talk to Jonathan Moore, one of your former players. He's my banker, yeah. By the way. You can be proud of him. He's my banker.
How about that?
Yeah, at BB&T. I recently had some issues with identity theft, and he fixed me right up. So you taught him well. But
oh wow,
you taught him some basketball too. But I remember really that first time you came and spoke to my players back when I was coaching baseball at Gardner Webb, and you really wanted to create an atmosphere in that arena. And boy, the next game, and from then on, our guys started showing up in force, and they showed up dressed up crazy. They showed up with their chants ready, and then the rest of the students kind of chimed in. They had a big sign that said Hope Maniacs, and then I noticed at the end of that season, and for several years running, it got voted the most difficult place to play in the Big South. Tell me what you remember fondly about, or not so fondly, about the Hope Maniacs when you were coaching at Gardner Webb.
They were unbelievable, Rusty. Your players were instrumental. When you and Tim's done a great job of this. One of the many things he's done really, really well, I think, at Gardner Webb now. Which way? Okay. So I'm sorry, I'm driving here. So
okay.
So the one thing your guys were instrumental for us as we were trying to build a program as a staff. You're at a place that's rather remote in Boiling Springs, yeah. And it's smaller in terms, as you mentioned, in terms of the student population, and you're trying to create energy and excitement. And I'm telling you, your players were unbelievable, and they also. Right, they brought energy, and then they brought incredible personality, which wouldn't surprise you at all, because you had some you had some great personalities, at least the years that I was around your teams.
Yeah, and let me let you finish that, but first say that one time you and I were talking about that, and I don't know if you remember, I was saying like, hey, why do my guys fit that role so well? And you said, well, they're not bad guys, they're just squirrely. And I've used that term ever since then to describe my players. They're great guys, they're just squirrely. They were, they love to be involved in stuff like that. And Chuck would text me, and again, I'll let you finish that thought. But Chuck would, I had to start going to all the games and sit on the other side. If you remember, I sat behind your bench right there.
You did.
So I could see them and what they were doing. And every once in a while, they would do something, and I would just tell the person next to me, usually Mike Simpson, well, my phone's getting ready to buzz. And the athletic director, Chuck Birch, would text me and say, have them tone it down. So I had this signal where I would slash across my throat. And the Brad Collins was kind of the leader of all that. And that was my way of saying, you went overboard, you got to tone it down a little. And then they would, I'd say that happened 2 or 3 times, but I couldn't miss a game because I had to be aware of what they were doing at all times. So you go ahead and tell me more about your remembrance of that.
No, Brad and that whole crew, they really were. They were instrumental. Like, I give them a lot of credit for just jump-starting us in terms of creating some excitement and energy, and that spearheaded our turnaround, particularly in year 3. So I can't minimize that at all, because it made it somewhat fashionable to come to games for students. It made it entertaining. Quite honestly, at times, especially in the early year or 2, they were more entertaining than we were. and I think there's you got to start somewhere. And I think they were just phenomenal. I can't say enough. And we still have a Holt Maniac. So down in our basement in Columbus, Ohio, here we have we have different pictures. Of a picture of senior day when I was at Butler. We have various pictures, but one that's prominent in that is the Holt Maniacs picture. And it's got all the faces that I still remember, that my wife still remembers to this day, that were instrumental in our move towards some success there.
And I remember those days fondly too. And I think back to there was one night it was really the first night our guys came out in force, and you were playing Barkley Radebaugh and Charleston Southern. Barkley's a good friend of mine. We grew up together, one high school 10 minutes away from each other. And I remember Jonathan Moore being hurt. I don't know if you remember this. And he just played as hard as any human being could ever play. And I just remember I was close to the court, and his elbows and knees kept hitting the floor, and I would hear that and thinking, he's already hurt. And he came over to me after the game. He said, Coach, your guys gave me energy. Your guys kept me wanting to go. And, man, I felt like they really did, help when that happened.
Well, you know how it is. You coached and coached so well for so long. When there is energy in the ballpark, in the arena, in the football stadium, soccer stadium, whatever the case may be, when there's just energy, it does make your guys perform at a different level. It's one of the things that we're all anxious to see with this COVID-19, what happens without that as we move forward. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. But, I think before we tried to create some excitement before, honestly, we gave them a great reason to be excited. And I think our guys, and you mentioned Jonathan, John Moore played really, really hard and was he set the tone early for what we wanted our program to be about. He and a number of other guys. And I'll never forget senior night, our first year. I believe your guys were there they might have been gone for a baseball game at that moment, but your guys set the tone. By the time we got to senior night, our first year there, it was a packed crowd, and I believe we played High Point. It was something like 30-10 in the first, midway through the first half.
Yeah.
It just created the energy and excitement in a year where we only won 11 games, but created the energy and excitement that we needed to help us turn it around in year 3.
But you would have thought we were national champions, and I do remember that game because we had played a home baseball game across the street.
That's
and our
right.
guys came in about midway through the first half, and I walked in, and y'all were ahead like 24-2, or it was ridiculous.
That's right.
And you could, I didn't have a place to sit.
They did come in at that point.
Yeah, we did. And then we came in the night we had just beaten Butler on the baseball field, and we came in and y'all won a game, so we went 2-0. I said, tell your buddy up at Butler we got him too. So
yeah, I remember that too.
I've got one more memory of that, and then I want to move on to some other stuff. But this one is my favorite Hope Maniac one. That's when that kid from Coastal came in named Rafa, and our guys were all over him, and he pumped in about 30 plus. Every time our guys got on him, he would just score more. And so he came the next year. I'm going to see how you remember this. And I told our guys, do not taunt that kid. He's like Michael Jordan in The Last Dance. The more you taunt him, the better and they gave him the silent treatment. I think he scored 8. Do you remember that Rafa kid?
Yeah, you got a great memory. You got a great memory because you're jarring some good and bad memories, quite frankly, for me.
Yeah.
But you're right. I remember you telling me that you were going to tell him to tone it down and, reverse psychology on him a little bit. And I do think it worked. I think it worked. You know how it is. Sometimes that motivates kids and players and athletes and competitors as much as anything. But yeah, I just, man, it was so instrumental for us. I can't say that enough. And I'll always be indebted to you for kind of allowing us to involve your guys, and then your guys for taking advantage of it. They couldn't be there every game, but
right.
They were there a lot of games, and it's hard to sit on your hands when you have like 20 maniacs in the first couple rows, acting crazy. Like it's hard to sit on your hands, and that was great.
I think our guys from that age remember that more than they do some of their own exploits on the baseball field, even though they had some good years. Well, I want to move on to a couple other things. I'm gonna skip forward to this past year when a big moment for me, which was certainly a big moment for you. I just remember taking a snapshot after seeing the score and texting. I texted you, and as I told you before we came on the air, I try to be careful not to communicate too much because you're getting hundreds and hundreds of texts and emails and everything. But I couldn't resist when you and your Ohio State Buckeyes went into the Dean Dome and beat the University of North Carolina. When I was growing up, the Carmichael Auditorium, which is where they played, and then eventually they moved to the Dean Dome, that place was sacred in North Carolina. And I couldn't even think about maybe even getting a ticket to go to a game. And now I'm friends with the guy who went in there and beat them. In fact, you beat them handily. Tell me what that felt like going into that place with that tradition and being able to get that win.
Well, I tell you, it was so the way that works for maybe your listeners that may or may not know is the Big Ten Conference and the ACC Conference have a agreement where they call it the Big Ten ACC Challenge, and the league offices determine who's going to play who at the beginning of the season. So you don't know really in a lot of cases until August, September. You don't know for a while. And we knew that we were going to be playing a good team because we were a projected, I think, top 20 team in the preseason, 17th or 18th. So we knew we were going to play a good team. And then I think Carolina, based so much on, what Roy's done and who they are as a program, and obviously some of their young talent they had coming in, they were, I believe, a preseason top 10 team. So for us, it was a game that we were really looking forward to. Our guys were looking forward to, even when you're at Ohio State, certainly there are some games where you are maybe more excited than others, and to go on the road and play a program like that is incredible. And Roy's great. Roy and I have gotten to know each other from being at Butler primarily. We've developed a really good relationship, and he met me at shoot around that morning. He was just headed out on his walk, and was as gracious as he's ever been. I believe he does that for everybody who comes at shoot around, and we spent some time together. And they had Cole Anthony, who's a tremendous talent, some really good young bigs. And what I think we realized after the fact, right, is they had obviously had a difficult season, but it didn't take away from how we played that night. Our guys played well. We had a lot of fun, and ended up winning. It was much closer than the final score in all reality, much closer.
Yeah.
But it ended, we ended up pulling away at the end a little bit. At that moment, it's an interesting thing, because obviously when you play a blue blood program and you win like that, everybody takes notice. So I was flattered by all the texts and people reaching out.
And for me, I was thinking of you're always thinking of your guys and how excited they are and what this means to them. And I want to just say the same thing, because when I coached at Gardner-Webb, as you remember, we had some wins over some ACC, SEC schools, and the first thing that went through my mind was, wow, these kids, how excited they must be to beat Carolina. It took us till 2012. It took us 9 tries before we beat North Carolina. And then the next year we beat South Carolina. And my first thought was always, wow, these kids, got to play a big-time program, and now for the rest of their life they can say they won. Well, that was a big deal at Gardner-Webb, but at Ohio State, y'all are expected to basically match up with anybody. But I'm sure, like me, your first thought was how that must feel to the kids. And then later on, maybe back at the hotel or on the bus, you kind of think what that means to you, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think your first thought is your players, what it means to them, and you just want that. How hard they've worked, and the time and the energy that they put into that. You want it to be an experience that they won't forget. And certainly, I think they won't. But you're right. Like we went in there expecting to play. It was a great environment. It was a great environment, as it typically is for big games. It was sold out in the Dean Dome, a tremendous environment, great crowd. So the energy was terrific. It was obviously on ESPN. But yeah, I think all in all, I went in there and I think more than anything as a coach in the moment, my thought was, okay, how do we get ready for our next game here in about 3 days? We had actually 2 days. We had our Big Ten home opener in 48 hours. So I did not. I enjoyed it, but it was a very quick turnaround for me, because we were playing a really good Penn State in our home opener a couple days later. So I let our players enjoy it. We actually spent the night in Chapel Hill.
Oh, okay.
It was one of those deals where we played. You know how it is. TV dictates so much right now, Rusty, of when we play, where we play, who we play. So we played, if I could get this right, we had a 9 p.m. tip, and I believe it was a 9 p.m. Wednesday night tip, I think, and we ended up playing at noon on Saturday. So we just wanted to get a great night's sleep, come back, do a walkthrough for on Thursday, and then light practice on Friday, and then be ready for noon Big Ten opener on Saturday.
So I want to take you now a little different direction. We back during our time at Gardner-Webb for years, when you were an assistant, and then when you came back as a head coach, you were part of our lunchtime. I guess it was once a week on Tuesdays at the Quick Snack, and I've had Mike Simpson on, Tim Kraft. He was there through the years. T. Burton ended up coming, Jim Korn, Daniel Elliott, some of them. But I think when you were there, that it was pretty much 4 of us for several years, me and you and Mike Simpson and Rick Reeves, the women's basketball coach. And we shared prayer requests, we shared Bible verses, we just shared our hearts about things about coaching or whatever. Tell me, in your opinion, how important it is for people to have those kind of people in their lives that either not just hold them accountable, but they feel like they can be transparent with and grow in their faith together.
Well, I tell you, I think it's essential, Rusty. I think it is absolutely essential, and I couldn't be more grateful for our time together. You're exactly right. It was Rick and Mike and yourself and I, and T. Burton did come by some as well, and I think what it did is it allowed, for me, from my perspective, sometimes when you're a head coach, I think we all can feel like this. You feel a little bit like you're on an island,
yeah,
and you can feel a little bit isolated, and I think what it allowed us to do is kind of sometimes commiserate together, sometimes embrace each other's highs and lows together, and to share those things that we were struggling with in terms of trying to do our jobs at a really high level and do it within the framework of being a person of faith. And I was able to really learn from you guys and take a step back and say, okay, here are guys that are really in a lot of ways at a deeper place in their walk than I am. So let me take a step back and learn from them and kind of embrace what some of the things that I'm hearing from them. But it was great because, you had to do it usually if it, after a big win or after a tough loss. And, you had the morning, if it was a tough loss the night before on the road, you had the morning to recover and lick your wounds a little bit. And then you had to go to the quick snack and, figure out how to, engage. And it was helpful in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and I remember, let's see, this is somewhat relevant. You were talking about my memory earlier. I always had the grilled chicken salad, and you always had the tomato soup, if I remember right.
I did, yeah. It's my pregame meal, by the way, right now, is tomato soup and grilled cheese.
Oh, you're still into that, okay. Well,
yeah. Occasionally I would go with the grilled chicken salad like you did, but more than not, it's exactly right. It was the tomato soup and grilled chicken or grilled cheese
sandwich.
A bit of like a seventh grader's meal for lunch. But I'll take it. It tasted good.
So now our paths were on the same path. We were both head coaches at Gardner Webb, and you and I talked about this. I'm just having a conversation with you for other people to hear it. But are you still there, Coach?
I'm here. Yep,
okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm getting another call from Ohio, and I thought maybe I lost you for a second. But here's what I was going to say is that our paths were the same at that time, but during our course of our conversation, I think, I had some professional opportunities too that I bounced past you that we'll keep, between us. But I kept telling you that I felt like that God was keeping me at Gardner Webb, that was the best fit for me. And you and I would talk about it, and I came to believe that you were destined for bigger things, and that's no cut on Gardner Webb at all. It was great for you. But so you end up getting those opportunities, and we that love and support you continued to follow you. And now you have a larger, if we want to say, platform. What responsibility do you feel now as a public figure, and you don't like to admit that, but you are, as far as being able to share your faith and be a good witness and a good example? Do you feel that responsibility now as much or more than ever because of where you are?
I do, Rusty. I do, and I'm admittedly probably not great at it, being as open or as outspoken as I need to be. But I do, because I feel just really, really blessed to be in the position that I'm in, and obviously you work and you earn the opportunities you get, and if you're competent enough and good enough, you get more opportunities if it's the right timing. But my experience at Gardner Webb. Listen, as you and I know, and you and I did, we had some very open conversations about some of the opportunities that came your way and kind of your thinking behind staying where you were. I think we realized we were in a lot of ways in a great situation. Chuck Birch is a tremendous athletic director.
Right.
He is Chuck Birch has tremendous faith. He's real and authentic in his faith. He cares about his coaches, and he cares deeply about doing athletics at the highest level within the framework of being a person of faith and a university of faith. And his impact on me was significant. I was so grateful for him, and so I knew that there would be. I shared with them an opportunity I had after year one that I actually ended up taking, but I had an opportunity after year one to go to Butler as an assistant. It just wasn't the right timing,
right.
With Brad at the time, but. I realized we had a great situation, but I left there to be an assistant at Butler when they moved to the Big East, and it was really hard. It was really, really hard. Mark Rabb, I never forget Mark Rabb, Chuck Birch, myself, and our staff being in, Mike Betty and our staff being in the locker room and sharing with our guys. It was, by far the hardest face-to-face conversation I've had, just because I never anticipated doing that, but it happened really quickly, and that's always a hard conversation. It ended up, my story and our story ended up being kind of really taking a unique twist about a year to 15 months later with becoming the interim head coach at Butler, but I was so grateful for my time there, but you do feel a strong responsibility when you have a platform that people look to live your faith in a real way.
And I have no doubt for those of us that are listening that Chris Holtmann will stay grounded. I know that you, Chris, are appreciative of every step along the way, and more importantly, appreciative of every person. And you've, I won't go into much detail, but you've given back at places that have been important to you. And I encourage you to continue to use your platform that you have for your faith and what people don't always understand. And you and I talked about in the past is like, there's all these coaches whose faces are on TV all the time who send out a tweet and 1,000 people like it within 30 seconds. You have challenges and struggles like everybody else. You don't have all the answers, and you've said that before. So I appreciate that your transparency and your openness, not only today but otherwise. And there's people here, myself included, who are always willing to be a sounding board if you need us anymore, and we'll continue to pray for you because you do have that platform. So just tell me what you think going forward. What do you want someday when you look back on your life, and you're a long way from that, but what do you want people to say about Chris Holtmann now and in the future? He did what? He stood for what? What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I tell you, you think about that more and more the older you get, right? And you think about why you're doing what you're doing, and I've been so happy with the job that Tim has done there, both in the kind of people it seems like that are coming out of that program, and obviously the great success that Tim and his staff have had there. So that's been tremendous to see. But I think you just, what I really want is, I think all of us, most of us who got into coaching got into it because we felt called to do it. We felt we were probably impacted in some significant way by a coach in our life, and we wanted to have that same impact on other people. So, I think for me, what I really hope is that people who come through our program, wherever we've been, whether it was Gardner-Webb or Butler or Ohio State, they that we create great opportunities for them, that we prepare them for an incredible life beyond college, and hopefully help them and equip them with the kind of skills that they need to be successful post their post basketball life.
Yeah.
But I want people to look at it and say, yeah, that Coach, he was about something that was bigger than just the bottom line of wins and losses, even though he was pretty daggone passionate about that as well.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if they can say that, then that I will feel really good.
That's a great answer, and I knew you were going to say something along those lines. I just wanted the rest of the world to get to hear that. Speaking of passion and intensity, I know we played pickup basketball when you first were at Gardner Webb, and I knew not to guard you because you were pretty passionate and intense. And I was that guy. He plays to win, but you didn't do anything unethical, and I appreciate that. So let me ask you about the family, and then we'll wrap this up because I know your greatest passion in life is your faith and your family, and so. I remember, Lori was obviously here during your time, and I got to know her, and I think I remember, well, I do know, Nora was born about 10 years ago. She got a birthday coming up this week. 10 years, I can't believe how long. I remember her being born, so tell me about your family.
Well, they're actually in the car with me now. I appreciate you asking, Rusty, and it's amazing when I think back about your kids and the stages of life they were in when we were there and how different it is now. Yeah, our daughter just celebrated her 10th birthday yesterday, which was a lot of fun, double digits. We all know how big and important that is. Lori and Nora and I we're headed for a few days. We had a vacation planned, and because we've been kind of holed up at the house, we extended it a couple days. So we're making the drive actually to South Carolina. So making the drive down and spending some time together, and a lot of it will be working. It's always a working vacation, as you guys know when you're a coach. But they're doing really well and have really fond memories of. You're right. My daughter was born right before, really right after I was hired, but her first 3 years were growing up in Boiling Springs there, and we had some incredible memories and videos from that time and coming to games, and they're really special moments when you are at a university that you care about, you believe in, and it's your first head coaching job, and you do it with a new child. You've experienced that, so you know what that's like. It's just a lot of really special memories.
And so, as we finish here, I'll remind everybody I've been talking to Chris Holtmann today. He's the head coach at the Ohio State University, the Buckeyes, and I will tell you, Chris, I am an Ohio State Buckeye basketball fan, and I do not pull against you in football, but I got a son that I'm paying tuition for at Clemson, and
wow.
So I have to go a little orange on that, but I'm certainly I'm certainly a Ohio State fan now, and I wish you all the best. There
are some very strong feelings from Buckeyes about how that game went down.
They didn't like one of the calls, did they?
Yeah, no, we did not. A lot of strong feelings up this way about a couple of calls there, and Ryan Day, our head football coach, we've become good friends, and he's done a tremendous job there. But that's one that I think will be hard for them to. It's going to take them a long time
to get over that one.
What is it? It was that one will take a while.
Yeah, I watched and kind of felt like there might be some people in red that were seeing red after that. So, Chris, I'm going to let you go and let you guys enjoy your vacation. I can't thank you enough for joining me today. I know a lot of people are excited about getting to hear you, and I just wish you all the best and pray that God will bless you and continue to use you for His glory in that position that He's blessed you with.
Thanks so much, Rusty. It's been great being with you, obviously. Dear friends, down in Boiling Springs, just tremendous friends and people that bring a lot of fond moments for us. So really, really appreciate your friendship and support throughout the year. It means a ton, and I've enjoyed this platform you have here on Facebook too. So keep up the great work, and all the best to you and your family.
Thank you, Chris, and you guys have a great trip. Take care, my friend.
Thank you, Rusty.
Okay, bye. Okay, folks, so you've heard from Chris Holtmann today, and I knew you would enjoy that. Obviously, the basketball coach at the Ohio State University, and took some time on his trip with his vacation with his family to speak to us and reminisce a little bit. So I thank you. It's another example of a story for God's glory, and I hope you're enjoying getting to hear people like Chris. You see them on TV, and you know they all talk. The reporters want to talk about their coaching all the time, and deservedly so. But this is a story behind the story of a faith and a faith journey, and I've just been privileged to be able to share that with you today with Chris. So I thank you, and hope you'll join me next week, and God bless you.